It's Maryam's making magic. Maryam's making magic. Welcome back to another episode of Maryam's making magic. And today we are going to be making two different types of bread. We're going to be making a naan bread and a no-knead crusty bread. It's actually the recipe, or a variation of the recipe, King Arthur's, not on the back of all of them, it's on the back of the bread machine or bread flour, that recipe. So if you want to, that's the recipe that I have loosely based this recipe also off of. So follow that recipe exactly, you may get better results. But here on this channel and this show is all about inspiration to get you in the kitchen, striving to make magic, striving to utilize how to eat to live. And one of the things out of how to eat to live on page, we'll put it right here. Yes, out of How to Eat to Live, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we should never eat fresh baked bread. And I did a little snippet on my Instagram doing my pizza dough earlier in the morning. I pre-bake it before, or I strive to always pre-bake it before I put all the accoutrements on it to then later eat it for dinner. So this is the same thing that I strive to apply that to all of my breads. So to the naan bread and to any type of bread, if you haven't had the chance to make it the day before, strive to make it the first thing in the morning. That way you have at least 10 hours, 10 to 8 hours of time before you eat it. You never want to eat fresh baked bread. You always want to strive to cook it twice. So if you pre-cook it, say in the morning, and then toast it again right before dinner at 4 p.m., 5 p.m., to me that is baking it twice at the very least. So let's get into this magic. For the naan bread, we are going to be utilizing, this is about 1 cup of whole wheat flour, 1 cup of bread flour, and then about 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. We're going to be mixing in a little bit of salt, about a teaspoon of kosher salt, a teaspoon. Just mix that right on up. And then we have some extra virgin olive oil. This is very important to make sure your bread is beautifully soft. It just adds so much moisture and deliciousness to your dough. It's kind of almost like, it's the same like when you do crust or pizza. You know what? Naan bread is pretty much pizza dough. Same recipe. And then we have about a teaspoon of active dry yeast. This is some active dry yeast mixed with a little bit of sugar and warm water. Pouring that in. With about a cup of water. And we're going to be letting this rise until later tonight, actually. For about 8 hours or so, I should say. And you just add a little bit more water until you get your dough to the consistency that you want.
Mixing managed.
This is a thicker, a less water-based dough. So beautiful to work with, actually. Okay, so now our naan bread has rested for about 10 minutes or so. We are going to take it. We already have our skillet preheating. I'm just gonna roll it out. This is the naan. Now this naan I oiled with some olive oil after the fact, and this naan I oiled before the fact. And honestly, I feel like this naan is more pliable. Look at that. Naan. But this, this still has a beautiful texture and everything. I think I prefer to do it beforehand. That way you're able to, it doesn't, well, this didn't really burn either. I don't know. I think I just prefer it beforehand. Now on to our no-knead whole wheat, it's not whole wheat, our no-knead crusty bread. All right, so we're gonna add about a teaspoon of salt to this as well. Not too much, don't wanna kill those yeast enzymes. I wonder if they're really called yeast enzymes. I kind of just said that. But yeah, you can kill your yeast with too much salt. So you want to make sure that you mix that in first, because this is not instant yeast. It's active dry yeast. Yep. So that again is about a half a teaspoon of active dry yeast with a little sugar and some water. Mix that in. And we're going to use about a cup of water to start off with. Dough has risen for the first time. We're going to knead it for a little bit to make our it's ironic because it's called a no-knead dough, but really it's just a quick loaf. It's a quick, I don't know why I'm always looking at the computer. It's just a quick loaf that you're able to make so you can have some nice bread. So we're just gonna move it around in that flour just a little bit. Shape it. We're gonna place it into our already floured bowl with our, I can't remember what those are called, with our cloth. Lightly floured with our cloth. Oh, right. Just gonna place it right into our bowl. I'm gonna let this rise one more time. We're gonna sprinkle a little bit more flour around the edges so it does not stick. Now I tend to make my baguettes more because they're a little bit more forgiving when it comes to this, when it comes to my degree of where I'm at in my bread making skills of this kind of bread. So because it already is in the shape within this structure, it keeps the form, and it doesn't have to rise so much. So I really prefer, or I enjoy making baguettes, but I definitely need to master my loaf, because I still love a loaf. It's great for, sandwiches and all that other good stuff. And so we're just gonna be doing our mini baguettes right now. And this is half of that dough. So we're gonna just do, actually I'm gonna make them even smaller. because it's still gonna rise. So it's 1. I'm gonna make 4. 2. It's still too much. Okay. And no, I don't necessarily weigh everything, but weighing is great for consistency, of course. And these are still going to rise for about an hour as well. So I portioned these into 4 individual sections. I'm going to flour it a little, pat it out. I'm just going to tuck it and roll it. Make sure. I'm actually going to do it a few times because I like for it to be nice and tight. And you want to be careful of not overproofing your dough. And I think that's a mistake that I do maybe more often than not, if I'm honest with myself. And that's why mathematics within the science of baking is so important, because you don't want to overproof your bread or overproof your dough, because it makes it harder to work with and you won't get the rise that you really want. So I should probably do that more. But I still get a bread that I'm happy with. We'll do 2 over here. These little mini baguettes I do love. They go great with bean soup. They go great with them just about anything. Bean soup, pasta, any kind of soup, honestly. But mostly I eat them with like bean soup. And I just roll it. I'm gonna give it a nice, good roll, covering it with that flour. Now I'm just gonna cover this with a cloth and let both of them sit for about 45 minutes to an hour to let them rise, and then we'll bake. And our loaves, they look like they've risen just well. I'm gonna do little slits, little breathing holes before they go into the oven. I simply always just use my kitchen shears for simplicity. Simplicity, just like that. And into the oven it will go. Until next time, mixing and magic managed.
Magic, Maryam's making magic.